tonight's featured artist, Rusty Banks. Let's go. I met Rusty in probably 2018, I want to say, and I was fortunate enough to substitute for Rusty on some gigs with the Central City Orchestra, which is an awesome wedding band that Rusty performs with and has been with for quite a few years. So I substituted for him, and we haven't played together that many times.
I don't get to play with a guitarist.
Yep, same.
Like I know a lot of guitarists that I call to sub, but
Yep, you can just grab that. We'll chat for a while. Yeah, that's the thing. There's usually just one guitar player on anything, so it's nice to really rip. And guitar players just know guitar player stuff, so we know what to do. It's nice to improvise with someone, and I don't know. There's those things guitar players do that we know how to do. That's different. Like when I play with a saxophone player, he's playing different licks. You know what I mean? We like guitar players have, I don't know, a certain pattern. I don't know. What am I trying to say here?
Well, what I like about playing with him as a guitar player is we know immediately where there's a gap where we can add something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh, he's leaving out that note. Well, I can do that one, and an extension it feels pretty good to be able to add something and it really matter, that much.
Yep. Yeah, we've been locking in. This has been very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's been super fun. Oh, sorry. I'll just hold it closer. I'm just being a non-vocalist.
Yep. No worries. Mine's super hot, so I can do all these fun things. Okay, so Rusty, tell us about, or should I say, James?
Nah, Rusty's good. James is what my bill collectors call me.
That's the government name.
Yeah.
Tell me about your origin story in music and how you got started in music.
Well, I was born in Jasper, Alabama. Probably my first exposure to live music was church. Just going to church. Went to like a little missionary Baptist church. And the music there was singing. And we had those shape note hymnals where you would do the solfege with it, but we didn't do that. That somehow had gotten lost before I got there. So what we did was just sing those hymns, and a piano player would sit down and play kind of a honky-tonk version of the chords, and we would sing the melody and just add harmonies to it. So that's my start in music. But then my parents signed me up for piano lessons through the school. But the piano teacher never showed up. But we had an old guitar in the closet that mainly I used as a sled tied behind a bicycle. But we strung that up, and I took lessons on that for a while. It had action. It was like a little better than a pedal steel guitar. And learned on that from this old lady named Corrine Williamson, who is, I think, maybe 175, 176 years old. I don't think she could play guitar. I think she was mainly a piano player and with some general ed knowledge. So that was a weird thing about me is I started out reading music, but it was just like hymns with notes written out and chords written above it, and I do that. Then I found a guy to take some rock lessons and did some bluegrass lessons. And then when I was in 8th grade, I saw a special on this news program called 2020 talking about Segovia, who had just died. I was like, oh, that sounds, I would love to play that. So I started studying classical. I had punk bands and alternative bands in high school. And then while I was in high school, I had friends that went to other denominations of churches. So had a friend that was what they called the Church of Christ, and they would sing, they weren't allowed to have mechanical instruments. So I had to open a hymn and sing tenor parts. And then my cousins all went to the Pentecostal church where they jump over pews and speak in tongues and handle snakes and stuff. And so I'd go there and play drums. So it was a really good, well-rounded education that way.
This is all in Alabama.
Yeah, this is in Alabama, yeah. And then I went to this school in there's a star on the campus that is the geographical center of Alabama. But it's sort of the freak school. It's where, if you're a hippie or a punk and it's like where pretty much all the gay kids kind of have to go in Alabama. And I'm not gay, but it was a women's college. It still sort of is. and is but like really great experimental environment, like for especially in Alabama. It was kind of like a little bit of Berkeley in Alabama. Went there and got my undergrad in guitar performance and music composition, and then went to Florida State and did a master's in composition. And so most of my training, and outside of the state, I'm more known as a composer. Like if you were running into somebody that's heard of me somewhere else, they probably know my like more avant-garde composition stuff.
Okay, so I want to stop you right there for a minute and go back. So the steel guitar, what you said about the action of a steel guitar, I mean, a steel guitar you don't even press down, so it must have been like impossible to play that.
It was like a silver tone. No, that would be cool. It was a West tone. So this was like the catalog guitar from the Western Auto catalogs. So like kind of a Sears kind of guitar. After about a year of that, I got a better electric. I got an Ampeg heavy stud. So that was a pretty playable guitar.
And so you must have really enjoyed it in order to power through like a tough instrument. The fingers hurt, but you knew who were you looking up to guitar wise at that time, or who got you going?
When I started out, I was going through a real old-timey kick. So I was really into Chuck Berry and surf rock. But before I started playing guitar, I was really into Prince. So I was a big Prince. That was probably the second cassette tape I ever owned was Purple Rain. So that's kind of what I had in my ear. But then it was the 80s, so for some reason the 50s were big. So I was listening to a lot of Chuck Berry, stuff like that. By the time I was in junior high, I was playing a lot of Satriani, Eric Johnson, Steve Vai, kind of tons of and all the Van Halen and all that stuff. So I was doing the shreddy thing in the 80s, more into the alternative thing by the time I was in high school. It was the 90s when I was in high school. So my band kind of started out as a thrash band, kind of morphed into a punk band, kind of morphed into an instrumental jazz fusion band. So by the time I got to college, I thought I think I feel more like composing instrumental stuff than writing songs. So that's most of my education is in serious composition.
Okay, so tell me about some of your teachers that you had from early on up until through college.
Okay, so we've already met Corrine Williamson. She had been an institution in that town. I've been trying to find more history about her because
she's got to be 259 by now. Or...
I'm not sure what she is, and it's hard to find information about her. But she had started a whole kind of music school in the area that was called it was called something conservatory. I think it was named after her. But it's really weird. It's hard to find information about her. My second teacher was just a guy that played honky tonks in Jasper. Really good country guitar player, very good rock player. Doesn't read music or anything, but real good ear player, real good feel. His name was Robbie Sanders. Teacher in Jasper for a long time and player. When I needed to study classical, the guy we could find around there was a guy named Marvin McCombs, who passed away a few years ago. And he was actually just a brilliant jazz guitarist. I wish I would have picked his brain more for jazz stuff because he was absolutely brilliant, kind of bebop and trad jazz player. Pretty good classical player too, though, so it got me started on classical. So I knew a lot of the literature before I got to college. Continued studying with him in college. And then when I went to grad school, and in college I studied with Edwin Robertson, who's just a composer. He did mainly choral stuff, but was an excellent teacher. Could just look at your stuff, immediately got it, and all of his suggestions weren't to make you write like him. They were to, I think you're trying to do this, and here's some ways to do what you're trying to do. Great teacher, great pedagogue that way. At Florida State, I studied with Bruce Holzman, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he's he's definitely one of the most important pedagogues in the world for classical guitar. It was incidental I studied with him because I was there for composition. And I studied composition with Ladislav Kubik, which is this guy from the Czech Republic. He's a guy from Prague. Does really hardcore expressionist atonal stuff. Also a great teacher, though. Just look at your stuff and be like, okay, so if you're doing this, it's like you could voice this in this way and that'll cut through. But he was just real. Like none of my teachers were snobbish to what their thing was. They were very good at a couple of things, and not snobbish to any of them. So like, that's probably the best ways. Although they were also like brilliantly technical teachers too, and brilliantly, and the things they pointed me towards to listen to was also really worthwhile.
And for the audience, what's a pedagogue?
Oh, pedagogue is just someone who is a known, essentially teacher, and like someone who's developing methodology for teaching an instrument or a technique for an instrument. So like Segovia is a great player for his time. Like we've advanced the art a lot since Segovia, right, in classical guitar, and that's through people refining their techniques and coming up with ways to teach those techniques to the next generation. So these are people that are really good at kind of like not only getting the next generation through basics, but kind of bumping them up a level as well.
And that would be Andres Segovia?
Yeah, Andres Segovia is like...
He's like the OG, right?
Yeah. So he's the guy that kind of brought the classical guitar out of the parlor and into the concert hall.
Okay, right on. So we're eventually going to get to what you're doing now, but tell me about some of the accolades you received for your compositions and some of the traveling you've been able to do with your music and like where your music's been performed and...
was a composer. Like in college, I was very serious about the composing thing, and there was a great group formed in Birmingham, Alabama, while I was there, called the Birmingham Art Music Alliance, or BAMA. So by the time I was graduating my undergrad school, I was getting performances in Birmingham and reviewed in the paper for them. So it was like a good kickoff. Moved to Nebraska for a while and worked in swing bands. That's a whole thing. But also got my first few commissions there. I also was doing a lot of conducting. When I moved to Pennsylvania is about the time that Facebook started opening up beyond EDU addresses. So
what are we talking, like 20?
It would be like 2005, 6. So somewhere around in there. I wanted to write a large ensemble piece, so I said, I want to write a wind ensemble piece. So if I can find 4 people, I'll write one for free if I can find 4 people that will perform it. So I found 6 people that would perform it, wrote the piece, got some good performances, got some okay recordings of it, put those up on Facebook, and then that was a huge jump in the amount of people that wanted to commission compositions from me. Around that time, Naked Eye Ensemble, which is a new music group in Lancaster that plays a lot of my work, had been talking to me about writing a piece, but then it got a lot smaller for a second, so it was so the pianist Zhu Ping Song is a great avant-garde new music pianist in town, commissioned a piece for toy piano. And so I wrote the piece for toy piano and cell phones that set up a latency delay around the audience, because I was really into spatial, and I still work with a lot of spatial audio things. And then that ended up winning a competition, making me a really important composer in the toy piano repertoire, which was unexpected, but that's my most performed piece in the world. Like the most performances, the most countries it's been performed in. The one that's most cited in people's dissertations is a piece I wrote for toy piano and cell phones.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And so from that, I just did the composing thing for a long time, either playing my own stuff or usually kind of like classical guitar, but being mic'd and ran through a computer, and so it's being echoed and pitch shifted and swirling around the audience while I do it. It was a big part of my voice. That and just writing pieces for ensembles and performers that need things. All pretty out there stuff.
So that time that we first connected and I subbed for you, you were going to China.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd written a piece for Shinpan. My wife, who's a pianist in town, is brilliant and great guy. My clarinet. My wife was a clarinetist. My wife at the time was a clarinetist, and a violin player named Simone Maurer. I'd written a piece for them in electronics where I was triggering a little MIDI controller So if they like do a pizzicato, I would trigger like a reverse reverb for that. So like a lot of my work centers around acoustic instruments and making them do things that you can't, like it's like, was that, wait, did I just hear a guitar note crescendo, like an acoustic note crescendo? How's that, that's a lot of my work. So I was in Beijing and Guangzhou and Linyi and Shanghai to present that work and give some lectures. Also went to Conservatory of China and taught some master classes to the composition students, things like that. So that was a fun trip. Lots of adventurous eating. It was super fun.
How was the general so's? Pretty spicy?
My favorite meal in China was, we had one that was all snake based. So the appetizer was the skin of the snake. And then we had a toast with some baijiu, which is a liquor they have there, with the spleen pureed into it. And the meat was the body of the snake. And I feel like there's another element in there, I can't think, but yeah, so that was that. Well, and again, my wife at the time was vegan, and so there's not, if you're vegan and you're in China, you're going to eat meat. It's like there's not, they don't get that concept.
Oh wow.
She's being a sport about it, but they were like, "Well, do you eat seafood?" She's like, "Yeah, sometimes I eat seafood." It's like, "Oh, we're going to take you to a place with great seafood." So we went there, and the seafood they had was frogs. So every dish was based on frogs.
So you're a snake eater.
I don't mean to be. Like I like snakes and all that, but
Shout out Metal Gear. There's this video game called Snake Eater. Huge popular game. It's getting a remaster this year. It has this incredible music and this theme. Snake Eater. It's like, I'll send you the song. It's a beautiful song. Okay, so bring us up to what you're doing now and teaching and performing.
like right now I'm doing more commercial music, playing on people's projects, doing the whole wedding band scene and all that. I have a solo project I'm working on. I played some of it as a work in progress when Hiroya Matoto came into Zootropolis recently and played. Like Ben Roth called me and asked if I would come open for him. So I went and did some of it there. I'm going to perform that one at York College in October as a complete work. And it involves like sort of we'll play part of it here, like a version of it, but it's kind of an evening length piece, and it involves a lot of sending echoes that get retuned to different amps on the stage behind me. And it's a lot. If you're familiar with my composition, it's definitely from my composition sound world, but it's a little bit it's simpler harmonically and a lot more open to improvisation. So it's a little more song-like. It's but if you know my other works, you'd be like, oh, that definitely sounds like the kind of stuff that Rusty does. But just a little jammier, a little more tuneful. So I'll do that there, and then I'm gonna reprise that work as a more completed thing as Zootropolis in January. And then between them, just picking up gigs here and there. I teach at York College and Millersville University. I teach guitar and virtual instruments at those places, and occasionally pick up a composition class or something if they need it covered.
Shout out Millersville Marauders.
Yeah, go Marauders.
I got my mom is an alum there, and one of my sisters as well.
What were their majors?
My mom was education and like mathematics, and my sister was social work.
Yeah, it's great programs there.
That neither of them shred guitar, like whatsoever.
We can't all shred guitar.
Yeah.
Although it feels like we do sometimes. A lot of good guitarists out there.
Oh yeah, and like it's such a good instrument. Like I don't know, when people ask me what instruments to play or what, I'm just like guitar, bass, drums, piano. We got some shout outs here.
Yeah. Hey Druck, what's up? Somebody picked up yeah. I used to pick a lot of bluegrass, it's true. Yeah, good to hear from y'all. It's been a super fun jam.
Heck yeah, shout out Michael Druck. He knows about the Central City Orchestra and the downtown sound.
So you're saying like what you recommend guitar?
Oh yeah, like so if people are like, oh, what, my kid wants to play an instrument, like, what do you think? I'm just like, guitar, bass, drums, piano, like one of those. I started on drums. I found that to be, I didn't want to start on drums. I wanted to start on like saxophone. Somehow in like 4th grade, I missed the instrument tryout day or whatever. It was like, if you want to try all the instruments, come at this time or whatever. And I like missed it. And so I had to go like after school and like most of the instruments were gone. So, and the teacher wasn't that supportive or whatever. And she was like, all right, well, you can play drums, whatever. Just played drums, drum pad, snare drum, and then like fell in love. We got the drum set in 6th grade. And then was doing all the ensembles, jazz band and concert band and drumline and stuff like that. And so I found drums to be a good entry point to music, to establish rhythm.
As you know, as a teacher, if I have students that struggle with rhythm or particularly reading rhythm, I hand them a snare book and we practice playing that, because like when a kid's had 1 year of snare lessons, they can do rhythm better than a guitarist has been playing for 5 years.
Yeah.
So that probably was a great, like when I got to college, I'd either played rock by ear or classical for music. So I couldn't read rhythm at all, because even when you have complicated rhythms in classical guitar, all the spaces are filled in, so it ends up being like even 16th notes most of the time. And so I have a pretty good ear, so I could kind of guess what the rhythm was. But if I couldn't, then I was stuck. I wouldn't be able to read it. Took percussion lessons for 1 semester, and I was like, all right, I can read rhythm now. That's all, So I just do that with students now if it's necessary.
Dude, the other thing you establish too is like accent notes. Mm-hmm. Like that's huge. And then like when you're doing drumline, like I did snare and drumline for a lot of years, it's like like you're doing triplets and duplets and just like all this accent, like all this stuff.
That's the thing, is way more complicated rhythms than guitarists ever do. So if you can do those, then you've got a rhythm vocabulary way beyond what you need for guitar.
Or just to be able to like think in that way and to be able to feel.
I very much think like a drummer.
Yeah.
I worked as a drummer and a bass player right out of college, because there's more gigs for that. For a long time, yeah.
And like thinking in those polyrhythms and stuff, or just being able to feel them, and it develops your feel. So yeah, and like nothing against the saxophone and trumpet or whatever, but like with guitar, for example, there's nothing in your mouth, so you can sing. Same with piano. And guitar and piano, you got the harmony element versus just one note at a time. So yeah, it's like such a beautiful, enjoyable instrument.
Yeah, if you're a guitarist, I would recommend after you get good at guitar, study some drums. And if you're a saxophone player, study some piano, like for sure. To fill out the harmony things you're missing. Yeah.
Yep, that's not the first time I've heard that too. Shout out to my main teacher was Andy Mowat. You probably know Andy. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable guitar player and songwriter and musician. And he said that his teacher would take him through that sometimes if they were like wanting to practice rhythm or just not sure what to do, or he just recommended just play some drums, like that'll help you just open up to things. And drums are in every genre for the most part except maybe bluegrass, but yeah, there's always drums. I got one more question about Jasper. You said they got honky tonks down there. What's Jasper like? Is it a bigger town?
Oh no, it's a very small town, and besides me, the other celebrities are George Goober Lindsay and Butterbean.
Oh yeah, I've heard of Butterbean for sure.
And I think I never watched the show, but the character Sawyer from Lost is from Jasper as well. Just the character, not that actual actor.
Oh, interesting.
It's about 30 or 40 miles sort of northwest of Birmingham. So it's sort of, it's in between Memphis and Birmingham, closer to Birmingham. And I didn't even really grow up in Jasper. I grew up in an unincorporated area outside of it, like just kind of in the woods is where I grew up. It had been a coal mining town, like that whole region had been coal mining. So there was a very poor town for a long time after that. Now there's a Mercedes plant in Tuscaloosa, and so there's a lot of auxiliary manufacturing there popping up now. So it's recovering a little bit these days. But super small town, not much of a scene there. Killer players, like the other kids in high school. It was just ridiculous how many people could just absolutely shred. And that was in high school. Like a lot of really good guitar pickers just in that whole region. It's not too. I mean, it's not too far from Muscle Shoals, and so like there's just plenty of good musicians within reach from there. So not much training available for stuff, but lots of good environment for, crazy good bluegrass pickers, lots of great singers. So yeah, in those ways it was really cool. But yeah, super small town. These days there's a little bit of a downtown. When I was there, it was pretty much like, there's a strip of highway, and that was kind of the town, and then people sort of lived in the woods off of that.
Do you still go back there? Is your family still there?
Yeah, my dad has a place very close to where I grew up in an unincorporated place right outside of Jasper, and I'll go back to visit once or twice a year to do a little bit of hunting or fishing. And then my mom lives in Florida. Overdue for a visit there, and like trying to figure out a way to get down there pretty soon. So, yeah. But it's when I go there, I don't really hang out with people that much. I usually stay in the woods.
Nice. And is it swampy or Everglades or?
It's the very bottom of the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay.
So it's in what's called the Tennessee Valley. So it's so like the Tennessee Valley is a sort of V that spreads out from the Tennessee River, which dips down through Alabama. And I sort of live in that region, in the very foothills of Appalachia. If you go a little bit south of that, it's like where iron and stuff is from, like in Birmingham, stuff like that. And then the very south part of the state is coastal plain, so it's very rich soil. It's what we call the Black Belt. There's a lot of like really fertile dirt and farming there. And then Mobile is like, right by the Florida Panhandle. So like really different regions. The region I'm in is more like being in Tennessee or something like that, or North Georgia.
Did you ever see a leprechaun?
There's lots of them in Mobile.
This amateur sketch.
It's real accurate though. It looks just like that.
I put the links to your website, your Instagram, and YouTube page down below. Please check out Rusty's music. What else do you want the people to know out there?
If you're in Lancaster, great new music ensemble called Naked Eye Ensemble. Check them out. It's weirder than what... I know what we're doing is pretty weird, but it's definitely weirder than that. But it is super high quality. They're like... lately they've been covering some Zappa tunes, which has been really interesting.
Wow. And
just killing it. I mean, they are so fun. And... they've when I got involved with them, I said I would love to do this, but I want to know that we're not only importing music to Lancaster, I want to make sure we're exporting music as well. And they've done it. They've commissioned so many composers who've written great pieces that have been played out and are released. They were reviewed in the New York Times not too long ago very favorably. They're great, but just live music in general. There's so much live music here. Make sure y'all are getting out and checking it out.
Concur. I'll put a link to the Naked Eye Ensemble in post. Ladies and gentlemen, Rusty Banks.
Great to be here, man. Super fun, James.
Oh, it's a privilege and a real pleasure. We're going to play one of Rusty's compositions next, or part of it. We're going to crank it up to 150 BPM.
Yeah, sounds good.
And at some point, you don't have to. I think I can do it on my end.
Yeah, it'd be better if you did that. Yeah.
And so one of us is getting on the drums before we go. Shout out to all the subscribers. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate all the comments. Peace and love and harmony. Let's go.